What's up, YouTube? Jeff Tuffner here on the Glorious Podcast. And earlier today, PW Insider leaked the list of the WWE 2018 pay-per-view schedule. And there are some notable changes to the schedule. One of the biggest ones being Money in the Bank. Obviously, this past year, it was a single branded pay-per-view for SmackDown Live. But apparently, going into next year, it will be a multi-brand pay-per-view. So both Raw and SmackDown will be at that pay-per-view. It's set to be June 17th in Chicago, which makes sense because I feel like it is the right decision to make this a multi-brand pay-per-view because there's like a void between WrestleMania and SummerSlam of like no big pay-per-views. It's just a bunch of little pay-per-views, single branded pay-per-views. So put it right there, right in the middle on June 17th makes perfect sense. And I think it would be fair to kind of have, I don't know how they would do it, if there's going to be like a briefcase for Raw and a briefcase for SmackDown, or maybe it'll be like Raw superstars and some SmackDown superstars, maybe like 4 on each side, and then, there's one briefcase, everybody wins, and then, if you win the briefcase, you cash it in for whoever has the title on that respective brand. So that could be the route to go. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it appears, though, it will be a multi-brand pay-per-view, which makes sense. I totally like the idea. And it's got all the locations and everything listed on here, too. I don't know. I'm not going to count on the locations for at least like the ones kind of past SummerSlam. I can go through it. I'll put the list up here on the screen. But, we know the Royal Rumble, January 28th, Philadelphia. It has the Elimination Chamber, February 25th in Las Vegas, and that's listed as a Raw pay-per-view. And then Fastlane, March 11th, Columbus, Ohio. SmackDown pay-per-view. I hate that pay-per-view. I think they should just cut that pay-per-view. It says like they're cutting back on pay-per-views, but looking through this list, it doesn't appear that there's like much of a cutback at all. It looks like the same kind of schedule as this year with a few minor changes. Obviously, WrestleMania, April 8th, New Orleans. Backlash, May 6th, Newark, New Jersey, Raw pay-per-view. Payback, May 27th, Baltimore, SmackDown pay-per-view. Obviously, Money in the Bank, June 17th in Chicago. It's going to be a multi-brand pay-per-view now. We got Battleground, July 15th in Pittsburgh as a Raw pay-per-view. SummerSlam, Brooklyn, August 19th, that is. This is kind of an interesting move here. They move Extreme Rules to September 16th in San Antonio, and it lists that as a Raw pay-per-view. Another thing to note here, SmackDown goes from May 27th, the Payback pay-per-view in Baltimore. They have a pay-per-view then. They don't have another pay-per-view all the way up until Hell in a Cell on September 30th. Something seems screwed up there. There's got to be a typo or something in this list because that doesn't seem right. SmackDown, there's no way they go that long without a pay-per-view. Obviously, they have SummerSlam in there, but one of these pay-per-views have to be a SmackDown pay-per-view, right? I feel like maybe the Extreme Rules should be a SmackDown one instead, or maybe they could swap Hell in a Cell and Extreme Rules around because there's no way they go that long without a pay-per-view. That's one thing I noticed this year, how like sometimes shows would go maybe like almost 9 or 10 weeks without a pay-per-view this year with the news kind of schedule. I thought that would fix that going into next year, but if they're doing this, is even worse than it was this year. Where was I? TLC, October 21st in Boston, and that is a Raw pay-per-view. Survivor Series was just announced last week, I think it was, that it would be in LA, November 18th, and then to end the year out, Clash of Champions, December 16th in San Jose, and that is a SmackDown pay-per-view. So, overall, they say there's changes. It seems like the same amount of pay-per-views that there were this year. I hope that SmackDown thing's not true. I hope they do have one of these pay-per-views somewhere in between here, and it's not all Raw. It would make more sense for maybe the Battleground to be SmackDown, I think. But then again, they should have I feel like they need another pay-per-view in there that's not on here, maybe, because then Raw wouldn't have one. I don't know. We'll see if there's a change or whatever. I don't know. I wouldn't count on these locations because usually WWE doesn't like reveal locations for almost a year ahead of time. Like it's hard for them to book the dates and stuff. So I wouldn't like count on like maybe like Clash of Champions being in San Jose, or we know Survivor Series or TLC in Boston or Hell in a Cell in Nashville, Extreme Rules in San anything past SummerSlam. I wouldn't count on that, but I would count maybe on everything above that being where it is. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's interesting. It's an interesting schedule. Like I said, though, the big thing is Money in the Bank being a joint pay-per-view now, no longer just a single brand of pay-per-view. So it's no longer the big four. It is now the big 5 pay-per-views. I assume what they would also do is make an NXT Takeover the weekend of Money in the Bank. So NXT Takeover Chicago, the second one, because they had one this year earlier. It would make sense to do that because they usually do an NXT Takeover that time of year, but it would just be for like a single brand pay-per-view. Obviously, this past year they did it for Backlash. So I guess June 16th, the night before, will be an NXT Takeover as well. So yeah, that's that for the pay-per-view schedule for next year. Like I said, I assume it's real. I mean, PW Insider, pretty accurate source. We'll see, though. I mean, that's it, though. Let me know what you guys think of the schedule down in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow here on the Glorious Podcast.